surf the beat cause the bass is bubbling. Gotta get it in before it comes tumbling down. There's only so much time to find this kind of rhyme to express my mind.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics, another holiday episode. It's me, Phil. Lilith is here. Kristen is here.
Hello.
And special guest, we're talking about covering in this issue, and I figured, hey, why not go to the writer of this issue to get it right from the source? So yes, the writer of Power Man and Iron Fist Sweet Christmas Annual is David F. Walker. Hello, sir.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. And just this, it just struck me as odd. Is like this annual is like what, from December 2016, and I'm like, no one ever thought to put out anything Power Man related with Sweet Christmas in the title, but since that was his catchphrase since like the beginning, since what, the 70s?
They should reprint this every year because, in all humility, it's probably the best Christmas related comic Marvel ever published. So there is that. And but yeah, no, it seemed like such a no-brainer, and when they approached me about it, I was in the middle of writing the series, and they were like, hey, we want to do an annual Sweet Christmas annual. And I was like, again, it was like, that doesn't exist. And then my second thought was, of course it doesn't exist, because if it existed, I would know about it, I would have read it, that sort of thing. They did do a Christmas sort of themed Power Man. I think it was still when it was Hero for Hire, I think, where it was like, it was somewhere in the first 10 issues, and it was like a guy getting ready to blow up New York City or something. It was very not good, but that's we would say that.
Yeah, and I can go right to Marvel Unlimited. You don't even have to put in Power Man Iron Fist. All you have to type in is Sweet Christmas, and this comes right up. So, but yeah, no, I remember reading this. I enjoyed this annual. I was enjoying the Power Man and Iron Fist series while it was coming out at this time.
Yeah, much neat.
Yes.
Yeah, it was that series itself was a lot of fun to write, but this issue in particular, I was always getting notes that, oh, you've got too many jokes in, every issue I was turning in. And this was the first one where it was like they weren't concerned about there being too many jokes. And so it's probably the only thing I ever wrote for Marvel. Every joke, there was an issue of Deadpool as well, where every joke I wrote made it in.
So what, they were just like, oh, it's the Christmas one, you can get as goofy as you want, or?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, when you're writing any sort of like holiday related story, you only have one of two choices. Either you go so deathly serious no one's ever going to want to read it, or you have to just lean in to the humor, and so that's what I did.
And I think it probably helped the story along too, that at this point Luke was a father.
Yeah, no, that was, to me, that was what made it such a no-brainer. And then for whatever reason, I don't know why they wanted me to put Jessica Drew in that issue. She was, she's Spider-Woman, but she had just had a kid. And I think that was why they were like, oh, can you put in Spider-Woman? And I was like, of course. Like why wouldn't I? So usually it was, again, to me, it was like, oh, another opportunity for a joke. So that was it. Any opportunity I got, I took it.
So did they want Jessica Drew over Jessica Jones, or were you just like, this is too crowded, there's no room for Jessica Jones in this?
That's a good question. That part I don't remember. I think initially, I don't think Jessica Jones was ever going to be in it. I think the whole idea was Luke was, the way I had originally pitched it and put it together, was that Luke was stuck going to the store to get these toys because, Jessica refused to do it. And then somebody said, oh, why don't we use Jessica Drew? And it's again, when sometimes they make these suggestions and you're like, oh my God, that's the worst suggestion ever. But this one was one of those ones where it was like, oh yeah, okay, this is good. She's got a little baby. And I've always wanted, right around that time, I had one of my friends had just had a kid, and they had this story about how they were changing a diaper and the baby peed and the pee shot in their eye and how bad it stung. And so I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to put that in a comic. So, if someone tells you a story like that, you can't not use it.
Yeah, when you have a newborn, you're getting peed on. It's just a matter of where.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Does that parent now have a copy of this comic for their child to be like, "That's you"?
I'm pretty sure they must. I mean, it's whenever I would do, like, if it was something that was inspired by something that really happened to a friend of mine or someone that someone that I knew, I would tend to give them copies of that. And if it's who I'm thinking of, and I don't want to name their name names, because that's just that's not everyone wants to know that a baby peed in their eye. So, but if it's I'm pretty sure they had a copy. I mean, they might have sold it for a fortune on eBay at this point, because these things are so valuable.
Right, that kid has to go to college.
Yeah.
You would think this one would be extra valuable because this is the actual first, like, actual Power Man, like, actual titled Sweet Christmas anything. So
I've given up trying to figure out what's going to be worth money and what's not worth money, and I that was because I'm old enough to remember having bought like 10 copies of Dazzler #1 when it first came out, and maybe it's worth money now, but it wasn't worth money when I went off to college. So I think they were 60 cents a piece, so I spent I bought 10 copies. I can't do the math, but I didn't make a lot of money on Dazzler #1 is what it comes down to.
I remember people thinking they were putting their kids through college with the death of Superman.
Yeah, there was always and the crazy thing is people still do that, and it's like it's a pretty limited shelf life for the things that people think are going to be super valuable. Every now and then something endures, but I tend to treat, I mean, my philosophy, with the exception of Dazzler #1, was always comic books were meant to be read. And so, I don't treat them that well. People come over to my place and they're like, "Oh my God, why is this on the floor under the table?" And it's like, well, the table was wobbly and I needed to,
Oh no, we have a Charlie answer in our midst.
Oh my Lord. Yeah, that's where he got it from.
He feels justified from right now.
Oh my Lord, yes. So who is there anyone in your life who was fun Uncle Danny Rand?
And I tend to be fun Uncle Danny Rand more than
okay.
anybody else. I don't have kids of my own, so I'm the one who tends to be. I've taught several of my friends' kids how to drive over the years. I don't, very little embarrasses me, so I've actually had to have one variation or another of like the birth control talk or the just say no drugs talk to friends' kids over the years, because they're like, I don't know what to say to my kid, and I'm like, yep, I got it. I can handle this. So most of my friends' kids now there's a handful that are still in their teens, but most are like in their 20s and even into their 30s at this point. But there's been a couple times where I've gotten like phone calls from the kids and said, like, I don't understand why my parents are acting like this. Can you explain it to me? So I've always sort of been. In fact, today I was just at a birthday party for one of my quote unquote nephews, who he's one of the younger ones. He just turned 13, and so there's a lot of, like, again, fun Uncle Dave, just because I'm always slipping up and swearing in front of them and saying things that are inappropriate, and I think that's why they all like me.
Come on.
Well, you write comics too. That's a cool job.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, all of the vast majority of my social circle are all work in comics. So I just happen to be the most inappropriate out of all of them. Because I'm the one who doesn't know how to. I never had to raise kids of my own. The most I had to do is, make sure nobody stuck when I was babysitting, nobody stuck like a fork in the light socket or anything like that, and nobody ever drowned on my watch. So that's good.
You need to go make friends with some accountants or something, and then your coolness will skyrocket.
Yeah, it's a little too late for me now. I think I'm stuck with the, comic book creators. We're not as exciting as most people think. It's the closest thing to excitement, and this would be what most comic fans would appreciate, is that sense of arrested development that we all have. So we'll sit around and talk about things that a lot of times it seems like we're too old for. Like, we shouldn't be so excited about whatever it might be.
Yeah, you guys definitely have a strong self-deprecating, as I've learned over these interviews. But you guys are all great, really.
Most of us. So there's a couple that are,
Yeah, didn't hold up through the test of time. Very true.
And just discussing the physics of which characters' powers work in certain ways and things like that.
Yeah, no, it's usually what's the funniest part of being friends with so many comic creators, and this goes back to being Uncle Dave to so many of them, is a lot of these kids are growing up and now they're having like you can actually have intelligent conversations with them about film and TV because they're like all these kids are really adept, they're well read, they understand story, and so it's interesting. I'll ask my friends' kids, what have you watched or read recently, more than I'll ask my friends. So, my friends are boring. Their kids are interesting to me.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, like introducing like kids to stuff because like my son is 12 and like just in the last couple months he's discovered Green Day. Now he's like listening to Green. He's like Green Day's like my favorite band.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. See, that's the. We were just having this conversation about Nirvana and how that seems to be the band that Nirvana's rise to superstardom. I was in my early 20s when that happened, and it's interesting now to look back. It's 30 years later, and to see, like, you see these kids walking around and they've got their Nirvana t-shirts on, and it's like, really, like, you listen to Nirvana,
you weren't there.
Yeah, and then they do. They listen.
Maybe
to
they're Buddhist.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's kind of cool. It's Green Day, Nirvana, and there's a handful of other groups that it's I this was the conversation because I teach part time. I'm not teaching this semester. I teach at Portland State University, and Brian Bendis is teaching the class this semester, and he needed me to sub for him, so I was substitute teaching for him. And somehow the conversation turned to music because I'm very easily distracted. And even in college, they treat the substitute teacher like, it's a joke. And I was saying how if you had told me 30 years ago that Nirvana would be the band that it is, and that it wasn't going to be Soundgarden. 30 years ago, I thought it was going to be Soundgarden would be the one that would have that. And they Soundgarden still has a shelf life. They really do. But it's like everywhere I go, it seems like it's like the cult of Kurt,
I mean, do you think too some of it too is just like how much pop culture is used like Nirvana music and different things and stuff?
It could be. I mean, look, they're a solid band. I mean, I liked them when they came out. I like them more now the older that I get. And it's funny because I live in the Pacific Northwest, and I never saw Nirvana live, but they played here regularly. And, like I knew Courtney Love, but only in passing. And, she was kind of annoying back in those days. Not that that's a big surprise or anything like that. So, I think, yeah, they're everywhere, but they're still everywhere because it's quality music, right? I mean, that's just my opinion. What do I know? I write comics. I don't know.
Anyway, back
things too.
Yeah,
and back to this comic. So you said you swear a lot. So you're not the Luke Cage fiddle faddle everywhere. I'm like, I forgot the fiddle faddle. You were through that in like every issue of that series.
It was. I don't swear. I try not to swear around kids. Now that they're all older, now that all my friends' kids are older. But I was that guy who I would be shocked, like if a kid swore in front of me, or if one of my friends swore in front of their kids, I was like, oh. And there was this whole time where every single one of my friends was trying not to swear in front of their kids, and they would say, whether it was shucks or golly, and it was just sounded so ridiculous. And I was like, okay, like to me, again, that's something that's really funny. Like most kids, when I was a kid, I knew what the adults meant when they said, shucks or confound it. And what they were really saying was, something far more colorful and exciting. And so I just thought it would be kind of funny because, Marvel with the exception of the stuff that they were doing like in the late 90s, early 2000s, the Marvel Knight stuff has always really shied away from profanity. And to me, there's something, because I'm immature is what it comes down to. There's something really funny about like trying to not swear or covering up the profanity, things like that. And so um, it was Luke was just a great opportunity because in real life he swears all the time.
Don't we all?
Well, yeah, I thought that was the thing too. Like you were talking about, what that in the beginning of the series, Luke was saying, now he's a father, he's trying not to swear as much. So yes, he would say fiddle faddle every issue.
Yeah. The friends who have the swear jars and they're overflowing with money because they can't control themselves. Yeah.
So okay, and then Christmas issue. So it's like, is it just, oh hey, Krampus is has to be the villain, like the ultimate villain of Christmas?
I wanted to be. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I wrote it, so and in fact, I've been looking for the original script because I had some computer problems earlier this year. Had to get a new computer, and I lost a lot of old stuff. And I was trying to find the script for this particular comic. And if I remember correctly, I knew I always wanted Santa Claus to make an appearance, and I wanted him to be the hero. And so I like the ultimate hero of the story. Wanted him to show up, and I was like, okay, so who's we couldn't use the Grinch. If I think if I may even ask, is there any chance we can put the Grinch in this thing? Like do it like a retro version of or not a retro, but a reimagined version of the Grinch. And it was like, well, hell no, you can't do that, right? Which I knew that was going to be the answer. So if memory serves me, I may have asked if we could use the Grinch so that I could convince them that Krampus wasn't going to be that, that big of an ask. But what? You're gonna have Doctor Doom try to steal Christmas, or somebody like that? No. So I wanted, and I'm a sucker for the Rankin Bass Christmas stuff from the late '60s.
Here without a Santa Claus.
Without a Santa Claus, Santa Claus is coming to town. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, all that sort of stuff, and it seems like the fact that that Krampus never made an appearance in any of those is really kind of disappointing. So I think that was also me just trying to channel some of that energy, the old Rankin Bass energy, which reminds me, I need to find my Blu-rays of all that stuff so I can watch it within the next week or so.
I think you were kind of ahead of the curve with Krampus. That Krampus movie came out in 2015. You're in 2016. You were like right on the beginning of Krampus's revival.
Well, there was like, there's like, I'm probably old school Krampus, right? like whatever weird stuff there was 5-6 years before that, I was probably paying attention to it. And, just like, it's funny because a friend of mine reached out to me the other day and he was like, hey, you'll never guess what I'm watching. I was like, no, what? I don't want to play that game. And he was like, I'm watching Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I was like, yeah, I've never seen that. And he was like, what? You'll watch anything? And I was like, yeah, if if my holiday movies involve like murder, I want it to be some sort of supernatural thing. I don't want it to just be a ripoff of like, whatever, a serial killer who's got some sort of weird Christmas hang up. So I prefer my most of my Christmas stories to be supernatural, although I do believe Die Hard is a Christmas movie, and there's nothing otherworldly about that. So
it's otherworldly how good it is.
Oh wow! I didn't know Kristen be in the Die Hard. Anyway, but yeah, no, you get Santa, you get Krampus, and then I'm like, okay, I'm here for it. But Damien Hellstrom, the son of Satan, okay.
Yeah, that was there's two reasons I wanted him in that story. One was because I thought they're never gonna let me have him make an appearance, but it was also this idea that the son of Satan would somehow be involved in Christmas, like to bring in a whole satanic vibe to Christmas.
Satanic panic.
Yeah, and to be 100% honest, my this an old one of my mom's dear friends was a hardcore Adam Lambert fan, right? And I thought, wouldn't it be hilarious if Son of Satan was a big Adam Lambert fan? Like, to me, it just seemed like the funniest thing. Again, I'm easily amused, and things that I think are funny, I try to pop them into these stories. And I'll be the first to admit, I actually like Adam Lambert. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as to call myself a glambert, but I wasn't making fun at Lambert's expense. It was really more of a taking my hat off to the people that recognized his talent.
Hopefully, he has a copy of this issue as well.
And Son of Satan would be an Adam Lambert fan. Well, my mom's friend at that time was so hardcore of a one of the Glamberts that she was posting all over social media, which may have made the sales go up for that one. I don't know.
Yeah, forget all this stuff from the before times. But no, you said maybe
if you had a signed copy, if the comic was signed by you and signed by Adam Lambert, maybe you could put your kid to college college on that. Or maybe 1 year of college at a state school.
Yeah, pretty expensive.
Yeah, give it a shot,
But I can't.
It's in good condition,
Oh yeah, I can't believe they didn't let you use the Grinch, because this is the Gronk from the Mighty Thor issue 444. So I'm like, no one suggested this one and done character.
Oh my God, I didn't. When did this issue come out?
This is in the 90s. This was, I mean, that's Eric Masterson Thor. That's how old this is. Yeah, it was in the 90s. Yeah.
I didn't know this character was there.
It was a one and done character. Yeah.
There's
Sweet Christmas Volume 2. We know the villain.
Maybe they were sued by the Seuss estate.
They might have been, or like let's see who made the movies, the that live action one with Jim Carrey. That's probably who wouldn't let it happen. Ooh. Now they could get away with anything because Disney owns everything. So, in fact, you know what? I'm gonna write a proposal so that next year I can do a whole line of like the Grinch conquers the Marvel universe. That's what I'm gonna do.
Don't tease us.
No, you guys think I'm
Grinch is
kidding.
very in right now. You got your Grinch meals. Grinch has always been a hero of mine. Personally, just glad the rest of the.
Yeah, no, I'm guessing the Grinch is probably owned by Disney at this point. So I'm saying this, and there's probably already someone planning it for next year. But I'm still with Marvel.
There's probably room for all kinds of holiday stuff. Do like the Santa Claus, but instead of like Tim Allen, it's like Deadpool or something.
Who owns the Grinch?
This year, for whatever reason, there's a ton of like holiday and Christmas themed comics that came out. I don't go to the comic store every week. I'm not a Wednesday warrior, but I did go a week or two ago, and there was, I want to say, like 5 different holiday themed. Image put out 2 anthologies. There was DC had one, and I think Marvel had one too. So, and I'm a sucker for stuff like that. I mean, there's sometimes the stuff is doesn't hold up that well, but every now and then, especially like in the 70s and 80s, they would do these anthology stories, Marvel, or these anthology books. Marvel and DC would do them, and there would always be like 1 or 2 that were really solid that held up. And I did one for DC a few years back, and it was, my story kind of sucked, but it was fun to do it.
I like it when they give them snazzy titles. Like, even though the stories were not all good, a couple years ago, the Halloween one was "I Know What You Did Last Crisis." I thought that was a pretty good title. And they had one at Valentine's Day that was Lex in the city, and Lex Luthor was on the cover. That was pretty good.
And those are just like, they're fun. They're a lot of times they do stuff like that as they'll test out new talent, right? They'll like, hey, can you write a 10-page, Thanksgiving themed story? And like, in order to pull that off, you've got to not only have a level of confidence in what you're doing, but you usually, most creatives are a mix of confidence and total, overthinking insecurity. and you have to let go of all that insecurity and just go, okay, I'm throwing caution to the wind, and I'm just going to be really, really silly. And it's and sometimes it can be really hard to do. And but I love that challenge. I love that challenge of like, are people gonna like laugh at this, or are they gonna think this joke is corny? Are they gonna buy into the fact that, you know, Luke and Danny are standing in line to buy some ridiculous toy, and that the toys are actually demonic, and you know, and then the whole thing, it's all part
It's
of
okay.
Krampus.
You can just say Furby. It's okay.
I can't remember.
It took me back to that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
What?
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
I had been thinking of there's another movie, and for the life of me I can't remember what it's called. Joe Dante directed it, but it was about these toys that come to life, and they're sort of like killer toys. They're like GI Joes that come to life. Toy soldiers, maybe little soldiers. Something
it might
like
be
that.
Toy Soldiers. I remember people talking about that when I was a kid, and I never saw it. But yeah, that movie, I know that movie does exist.
There's a little bit of inspiration in that, and then
Small
if you
soldiers, I think
oh yeah, Small Soldiers. Yeah, I think you're right.
Small Soldiers, yeah. But then I was also hugely inspired by the Full Moon movies from the 90s, which there was a whole series, Demonic Toys, the Puppet Master stuff, and you know, and I'm old enough to remember the Cabbage Patch craze and all that sort of stuff. And so it's taking all these things that have, there's the what are they, the Lulu Bees or something like that?
Oh, Labubu's.
The Boo-Boos, that's it. I was at a holiday thing about a week ago, and that's all like everybody is talking about. It's like, what the hell? I didn't want to let anyone know that I didn't know what they were talking about. So I, you know, look on my phone, go off into the corner, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, these things are going for $70 a pop or whatever. So, and you know,
like the Beanie Babies.
Beanie Babies. I wish I could invent something like that and just, you know, run off to the bank with it.
Yeah, you get a little bit of a window. Yeah, it's just like a license to print money.
Yeah, I'm not too old. I still may. I'm gonna try it. That and the Grinch series. I'll put both of those on my to-do list for next year.
Say, if you could combine those, the Grinch series with blind bag marketing, might be good.
Who owns the rights to Krampus? I mean, a Krampus line.
Nobody, because it's mythology.
Krampus is out of copyright. He's like Santa.
I don't know.
It's public domain.
I figured Disney would have snatched that up or something.
Well, if you need good Krampus lore, you should watch him. That's all.
No. All right, so you got pushed back on the Grinch. Did you get pushed back on Luke's ringtone, Jingle Bells, Batman smells? Did you get pushed back on that? No.
None at all. I was really surprised by that.
Mentioned Batman in a Marvel comic. I know. Yeah,
it's you know, there's things. Again, my philosophy is always you don't know till you try, right? You put it in. You don't. It's better to ask for forgiveness and ask for permission, and you just kind of keep your fingers crossed. Like, okay, like there's somebody in the legal department somewhere that's making sure this stuff is okay. And if it's not okay and it got past them, it ain't my fault. I'm not losing sleep over that. But again, it was just that issue came along at a time where I was like, let's see where we can go. Let's see how far we can take things. And the fans of Power Man and Iron Fist, we were probably 10, 12 issues into it at that point. So we were nearing the end. In fact, I think I might have known that the end of the run was coming up. So it was also like, okay, let's just, you know, once you know your title is coming to an end, it's not that you cease to care. You're like, what can I get away with? You know, what are the sort of little nuggets that I can leave behind that will ensure my legacy at Marvel? And this was, you know, this is it. I tell people all the time when they ask me what are, you know, my favorite things that I've written for Marvel, this is in the top 3, this particular comic.
Oh, this issue or this
issue?
This issue? Oh, well, nice.
How did the book come about?
They came to me. I was like I said, Power Man and Iron Fist was already up and running. Sanford Green was the main artist on it. And my editor just one day was like, hey, we want to do a Sweet Christmas special. Do you want to write it? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, like, thank you for, it was more like, thank you for asking. I will have a script to you in a couple days, and or an outline or a pitch. And I think, I'm pretty sure, I know I would have asked, is there a villain that you want me to use? And so Krampus, my use of Krampus may have also come down to, knowing that they weren't going to let me use the Grinch, and I wasn't going to create a new character for them that I wasn't going to have any ownership of, a stake in ownership, any equity. And knowing that Krampus was public domain, I could get away with that. But I knew I wanted a supernatural thing. I didn't just want it to be like, I didn't want it to be Galactus steals Christmas, or not Galactus, excuse me. I didn't want it to be like a street level villain. I didn't want it to just be like, I didn't want to do Die Hard is what I didn't want to do. I love Die Hard, but I wanted to make sure it's always fun when you're writing characters like Power Man and Iron Fist, Luke Cage and Iron Fist, which they're technically considered like street level characters. It's always fun to have them go up against something supernatural. At least that's sort of my philosophy. And so I just knew, but again, I knew I wanted Santa Claus. I wanted Santa, like, I'll be honest, I'm not a big holiday person. I'm bordering on being a Grinch myself and very bah humbug about the holidays, but I still love Santa Claus. I'm still waiting for him to deliver the goods, but he ain't shown up yet. And every year I watch Miracle on 34th Street, the original one, and it's the closest thing I have to that. Die Hard and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang are the only three true holiday traditions I never miss.
No Batman Returns?
No.
No, now that you said that, now I want a Galactus Steals Christmas.
Galactus and the Grinch could team up. Oh, that would be it.
That's Grinch. Thanos' style, actually.
No, the Grinch would be Galactus's new herald.
Oh! Yes.
I'm literally jotting down notes as we're talking because to
make a killer popcorn bucket too.
Just give us a shout out. Just give us a shout out. Oh my lord. Oh yes. It's Christmas clobbering time. Yes.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yes. Oh, make that happen.
I don't do stuff for Marvel that much anymore. Like I said, I'm still on good terms with them, but I'm busy with other things. And every now and then I'm like, what's something I could do, something I could pitch? And I'm inspired now. So thank you.
Hey, man, no problem. Hey,
are you mostly doing your own stuff now, like creator owned?
Yeah, creator owned stuff, and I'm doing stuff in the working with book publishers in the original graphic novel world, and that stuff just. It takes up a ton of time, and once you sort of transition over into that world, you get out of that monthly rotation cycle. Editors don't think of you as much, and there's always somebody who's ready and willing to write for any one of these publishers, and my attitude is, unless I've got something really that excites me, I don't want to be. It's work. But I don't want it to be like crappy work, I don't want to have drudgery. I did a Godzilla one shot earlier this year for Marvel, and they came to me and I was like, hell yeah, like this is ridiculous enough that this sounds like it'll be really fun to write. And it was fun. It was also pretty nerve-wracking because Godzilla fans they're in a league all by themselves, right? And it's like, not to change the subject from the holidays, but like there's different generations of Godzilla, different eras of Godzilla, and then there's the American Godzilla stuff that Legendary did, and then there's the terrible animated Godzilla series from this that I think it was Hanna-Barbera did in the 70s. With Godzuki, and like they all have these crazy opinions, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to go to battle with Godzilla fans.
I was going to say, you're about to have a man on the inside in Marvel, right? Because Mr. Bendis is heading back to Marvel.
Yes, he is. He is. I don't know how much of the stuff he's doing has been announced, but
I think they said Avengers. I think they've announced Avengers, but beyond that, I don't know if they've announced any of what else he's doing.
Are you stealing his class then?
We're probably going to co-teach come this winter. So we've been co-teaching on and off for years, and it's what gives us an excuse to hang out twice a week, because his schedule's so busy, my schedule's so busy, we usually don't see each other. But he had asked me over the summer, he was like, do you think you'd come back in, sometime either in the fall or winter? And I said, if it's, if Portland State has it in their budget, I'll be back. So it's really just, we get paid to hang out and talk comics. And then there's like 30 people sitting in front of us watching us geek out over things and arguing over, usually there's a big argument over Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, because I still hate that movie after all these years, and he loves it.
So, are you guys doing an English class, or is it?
It's a writing class. There's a comic studies program at Portland State. They have a editing for comics, writing for comics, comics history, comics theory, and we teach the writing for comics class.
Because Kristen is a medieval history professor.
Got it. Yeah, you're doing real work. We're just like,
oh, thanks.
Oh, I'd pay the money to take a class where you and Bendis just argue with each other every class.
It's the only argument usually is over Temple of Doom. Everything else we usually agree on, and it's a lot of it's what's interesting is being just shocked by the pop culture illiteracy of our students. So we'll be having a conversation, we'll say something, and it's like, okay, so how many of you have seen Goodfellas? And none of them have ever seen Goodfellas. And then we start moving closer to the current date. Goodfellas is 1990, so it's 35 years ago. But then we'll be like, so how many of you have seen The Matrix? They haven't seen The Matrix. And then how many of you have seen the Lord of the Rings movies? And they haven't seen the Lord of the Rings movies. And then we're both of us are like, what are you doing here? Right? Like and inevitably there's a bunch of students say, well, I really like those Marvel movies, and it's like, then yeah, you're gonna fail this class because your heart ain't in the right place, kid. Go back and watch the director's cut of all 3 Lord of the Rings movies, skip the Hobbit movies, and then come back.
I was gonna say the Lord of the Rings movies are coming back out, aren't they?
Yep.
Probably. That doesn't mean young people aren't gonna watch it. Like, young people don't watch anything that's not on TikTok or whatever.
Yes. Oh yeah, those movies are probably too long for them.
It's an older movie for me, but I teach a class about witchcraft and magic, and we were talking about possession, and I referenced The Exorcist, and then I was like, wait, how many of you have seen The Exorcist? 2 or 3 hands? I was like, oh, guys.
Well, you should actually read the book and then watch how many hands actually go up.
Oh God, yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, I think that we're at a time where there's a lot of things are way more accessible than they ever were, but and I sound like an old guy when I say this, but these youngsters these days, man, they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate what they got. So it's always interesting to me because I'll watch anything, right? I was sick last week. And I'm like screwing around, and I was like, The Towering Inferno is on Amazon Prime, and it's free. And I watched The Towering Inferno, and then the moment it was over, Amazon, God bless them, turned on Poseidon Adventure. And did I turn off the TV? Nope. I just was in a NyQuil-induced haze, and I was, watching the Poseidon Adventure, which I'd never seen before. So.
Oh, and you're watching it on NyQuil. Yikes.
Yeah.
You wanted it to be an adventure.
That's definitely.
I mean, you hit a certain whatever, and it puts you in the mood. Like I reread this annual again, and I'm like, you know what? I should go back and read that whole Power Man and Iron Fist series again. I mean, again, I usually have for a bunch of free time around the holidays. I'm like, maybe I should read some old comics.
That's
and it was
appropriate use.
Again, I'm old enough. Those 2 characters, I grew up with those 2 characters. I was reading their comics when they had their solo books. You know, Iron Fist started out in Marvel Premiere, and then he got his own solo book, and then Luke Cage started out as like, it was either, I can't remember, it was Luke Cage Hero for Hire, then it was Power Man. But I've been reading those books forever, you know, and I still have like old beat up copies of that stuff. And again, it's kind of surprising that they never did a Christmas related story.
It's kind of the redheaded stepchildren, though. Like,
yeah. Know. Well, and that's the thing. They're really popular. It seems like they're really popular with like hardcore comic fans. But there's also what's interesting is there's people who are they're fans of Power Man and Iron Fist, but they had only read like 2 or 3 comics ever. Like it's like people love the idea of Power Man and Iron Fist, right? And I just was so into them. And it was Joe Duffy, who I think was probably the best writer of that team. And I can't remember if she was the original writer when the 2 characters were merged into a single title or not. But if you go back and read the Joe Duffy stuff, it was just so well written. And Kerry Gamble was writing it or drawing it. And I really, like, I wanted to, during my entire run, I wanted to try to capture as much of that as possible, while also making sure it had my, you know, my thumbprints, my fingerprints all over it. And then with this particular, the holiday issue, it just felt like, you know, again, like I can't describe it, but it was like, it was enough to make me to believe in Santa Claus that they asked me to do this. It was like, oh my God, my Santa Claus finally answered one of my letters, which was, you know, let me write a comic book that takes place during Christmas. And because as much as I don't like Christmas, I do tend to celebrate it the middle of the year. So it's like, that's when I'll watch It's a Wonderful Life, usually in July during a heat wave. You know, I'll watch, that's when I watch any movies that have snow, is in the middle of summer.
Do you get much snow in Portland?
No, not that much. The last few years we've had like a snowstorm, but we're a city that's ill prepared for the snow. So you get half an inch and the entire city shuts down and the power goes out. And it was like 2 years ago, I didn't have power for 4 days. So I had to go stay with friends.
Oh, geez.
And then the power comes back on and then the pipes burst and I didn't have any, oh no, they didn't burst. One of my neighbor's pipes burst. Mine froze. And so I couldn't flush the toilet for like a week. Well, I could flush the toilet because every day what I did is I went out and got ice and snow, filled it in a bucket, then let it melt. Then, you know, so I grew up on the East Coast, so I know those tricks.
Yeah, it's like you go down south. Yeah, they get a couple flakes and they don't know what to do.
Shout out to Atlanta. They get a quarter inch of snow. And Virginia, DC to be real, even though it snows there a lot there.
So, but yeah, I mean, Luke Cage, man, he's really come up in the last like couple, well, I guess decades. I feel old now, but yeah, I mean, your friend Mr. Bendis put him in the Avengers, and then he was running the Thunderbolts for a while. Now he's the mayor of New York City.
Yeah, I know Rodney Barnes was started. I read the first issue of Rodney Barnes's run on that, and then I got distracted and haven't been caught up on it. But again, he's that character. He's one of those characters that you come to find there's a lot of people who love comics who love that character, and letting, when Marvel lets you write that character, sometimes it's great, and other times it's like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? And when I was doing Power Man and Iron Fist, it was great. It was a great experience. That book its run came to an end, and then we did a Luke Cage solo series, and that was like a nightmare. It was just like getting noted to death and all these things that we couldn't do, and it was just like the right hand not knowing what the left hand was doing, and it was like, oh, this is how bad comics get made. And I felt like, you know, I try not to poo-poo on anything that I've done, and I know that there's people out there who are fans of the Power Man, of the Luke Cage solo series that I did, and bless you, I appreciate it. But that was like, when I think of the least fun I had at Marvel, it was that the Luke Cage solo series, which should have been the most fun. But it was just like, it was always one thing or another, and whatever, life goes on.
Was that the thing? Did they get more like Marvel and DC? Did they get more protective and maybe overprotective of characters once they like get a TV show or a movie or something?
And not it's sort of case by case. Sometimes it is because there's a TV show or there's a movie, but sometimes there'll be like there'll be a writer who's more popular than, who's a better seller, or their books sell better than yours do, or there's an editor who really is like, Luke Cage would never do that, and it, depending where they are on the food chain, if they're up above you, they can call those shots, and sometimes you just get these notes that make absolutely no sense, and with the Luke Cage solo series, the big note was, that Jessica couldn't be in it, the baby couldn't be it, and Iron Fist couldn't be in it. And I was like, okay. And they said, and no mention of them. And I was like,
wait, so the kid he has in this comic couldn't be in his solo comic?
So his wife, his kid, and his best friend couldn't be in it. Okay.
No, they made an appearance like in issue 1. And that was one of the reasons I think this series was so poorly received. And then in the final issue, I got to put Jessica and the baby back in it, but it was one of those things that made no sense to me whatsoever. And I never knew exactly where that note came from. But like, the more ridiculous a note is, the more you know that it's coming from way up the food chain, and it's either ego or it's something that's tied to like some other part of the entertainment conglomerate of it all.
Yeah, I always thought maybe that was like TV show, because none of them were really in his series, so TV series. So it's like, oh, we want to buy the TV series.
It's, you would think that would be the case. So, I'll get in trouble for saying this, but I'd said when we were first talking about doing Power Man and Iron Fist, I said, we should call this Luke Cage and Iron Fist. And because the Netflix show hadn't come out yet. And I said, nobody remembers that, Luke Cage and Power Man are the same guy. And I'm worried it's going to affect our sales. Oh, don't worry about it. Everybody remembers. And the first thing everybody was saying was like, how come you're not calling this Luke Cage? And then the Luke Cage show drops from Netflix. And every convention I went to, people were like, oh, what is this? What's Power Man and Iron Fist? And I'd say, well, Power Man is Luke Cage. And they would go, well, how come it's not called Luke Cage? And then at some point, someone at Marvel said, yeah, we made a mistake not calling this Luke Cage and Iron Fist. It's like, okay, like, but that doesn't change the fact that now that our sales weren't, not to pull the curtain back on any of this stuff, but one of the things you're always thinking about is, okay, you want your sales to be good because you don't want your book to be canceled, but you also want your sales to be good because at some point you're hoping that you'll earn royalties on sales. And the sales threshold is set so high at Marvel that, you've got to do monstrous numbers in order to get like any sort of significant royalties. Once you're at a point where they're doing like the big giant omnibus of your stuff, maybe you're going to be making royalties. And if you're writing Spider-Man or the Avengers or the X-Men, you're going to be doing okay. But if you're doing anything other than that, there's a good chance you never hit those numbers. And Power Man, look, was it 2 years ago was the 50th anniversary of Luke Cage with Power Man, and there was not any sort of like Luke Cage collections that came out, right? Like, but I'm going to blame that on the marketing department. And if anyone from the marketing department heard me say that, good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, people remember he was called Power Man. And it's like from the 70s and 80s. I thought their whole thing now was like, oh, we need new readers too. It's like, well, maybe new readers don't know he was called Power Man.
Also, Luke Cage, I don't know, that's a cool name, and Power Man is like not as cool.
No, it's not as cool. But there's always somebody who has an idea that like, oh, this character wouldn't do this or this character shouldn't do this. and sometimes they're right on, right? Like, you know, Superman should never kill anybody. Spider-Man should never kill anybody, right? And if you come into it and you go, hey, I'm going to write this story where Spider-Man kills somebody, it's like, no, you could write a story where Spider-Man's framed for murder, but if Spider-Man actually kills somebody, if Peter Parker actually kills somebody, like, not only did you blow it as a writer, your editor blew it, and everybody, you know, at Marvel blew it, and everybody deserves to lose their job. But there's you know, there's other things, unwritten rules that can be broken, and I think one of the most exciting and amazing jobs that was ever done with that was Ed Brubaker violated like one of the top 5 rules in comics, which was Bucky Barnes is dead. and he brought Bucky Barnes back, and it was like, wow, he did it so well. And so yeah, you can do that stuff. I mean, I do think Uncle Ben should always be dead. The Waynes should always be dead, but it turns out Bucky Barnes was okay to bring back. But yeah, you never know. You like, I think that there was, you know, you're talking about Bendis writing Luke Cage. He put him in the Avengers. He was also in the Jessica Jones book, Alias.
Yes.
And where, you know, Brian and I, as kids, we didn't know each other as kids, but Luke Cage was that character that one of the characters we really fell in love with. For me, it was, I fell in love with Spider-Man, Thing, and Luke Cage, and the Hulk. Those are my 4 favorite characters when I was a kid growing up. And, you know, and I know Luke Cage was one of Brian's favorite characters. And when he got the opportunity to write him in Alias, and then in the other series, there was I can't remember the other one. It was like a follow-up to Alias. And it was revolved around the Daily Bugle, and then he put him in New Avengers, and he did something that most writers never do, is that he actually had Luke Cage grow and evolve and mature as a character in a way that almost no Marvel characters have ever done, had done, at least up to that point. And the ultimate being, he became a father, right? With the exception of you know, Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman and Fantastic Four. Very rare that comic book superheroes became parents, and I think that there's people, again, high up on the food chain that don't like that sort of stuff. It's like, you know, they had that Steve Ditko mentality, which was Steve Ditko felt Peter Parker should be in high school forever, like the Spider-Man. So... Yeah, exactly. But certain things really do work when they change, you know, and when they evolve. And so I thought that's one of the reasons I think Luke Cage remains one of the most interesting characters in the Marvel universe, was because late 90s and into the early 2000s, he had this character growth that most characters never get.
Yeah. And again, I mean, that's really, you know, well, after the first Power Man and Iron Fist series, when it really took off as a solo character.
Yeah. And if you read any of the Luke Cage stuff from the 90s, not to knock any of it, but if you read it, good luck reading it. It's interesting to see that there sometimes writers or teams, writers and artists, will take over a book, take over a character, and they just make it sing. And then there's other ones where it's like, yeah, let's just forget that ever existed. Let's not look at that. You know? So, but yeah, I was excited and thrilled. And, you know, when DC asked me to write a short holiday story, and it was fun. It was fun more because I was working with Gustavo Duarte, who's an artist whose work I love. But maybe it's the fact that I'm such a non-holiday person that I'm sort of obsessed with holiday comics and holiday movies, because it's everything comes with a certain set of rules, right? You know, and if you're writing a Spider-Man story, there's going to be a certain set of rules that come with it. And if you're writing a Christmas related story, there's going to be rules. And I like those rules because I like finding ways to navigate around them. they provide really interesting challenges to try to figure out how to make it work. And so I think that's one of the reasons why I'm like endlessly obsessed with Christmas, not just Christmas movies, but the Christmas episode of TV shows and Christmas comics. And I just sort of look at it, I look at that stuff and study it and go, okay, what is, how did they make it work? How do they make it work to their advantage? It's easy to write a Halloween story, right? Because a Halloween story is you're just writing a horror story. But with Christmas, is there going to be a fantastical element? Is it going to be sentimental? Is it going to be, how emotional is it going to be? Is Santa Claus going to be in it? What are you doing? And the thing is me being a grumpy person, as grumpy as I am, I love stories of hope and shit that puts smiles on people's faces,
Yeah, it seemed like the Christmas story would be almost like it's not hard to write, but it's like everybody has an image in their head of what Christmas is supposed to be.
Yeah, and I'm actually working on it's going to be an independent, probably self-published Christmas story, graphic. It'll be a graphic novella, just because the artist I'm working with is a good friend of mine, but he's got a life and a job that makes drawings. He doesn't have a lot of time for it, but mine is sort of like a Death Wish meets a Christmas Carol. It's not like superhero stuff, but it's like the most violent Christmas story you could possibly imagine.
Oh wow!
With just a hint of a Christmas Carol, which is another thing I'm obsessed with. I'll watch any version of a Christmas Carol.
Muppet version's the best, and you can argue with your mama. You ain't gonna argue with me about it.
I'm not gonna argue with you about it. Everyone's got their favorite,
Yeah, okay. So that was gonna be my next question before we go. What do you have going on now? So do you have anything besides that going on?
Right now, I have because I'm doing stuff in the original graphic novel world. I've got a book that I've written for 23rd Street Books. It's being drawn by Ben Bishop, who has been doing a lot of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Last Ronin stuff. And I have no idea when that one's coming out. And then I'm putting together some pitches and proposals for graphic novel stuff, but I'm all the like comic stuff. By comics, I mean anything under 40 pages. It's all stuff that I'm just sort of self-publishing right now. The comic market, the retail market, and the publishing industries not in the best of shape right now with the bankruptcy of Diamond. Stores are I'm not going to say they're being more conservative in what they're buying. They're just buying more copies of, Batman, Deadpool than anything else. Yeah. And so what happens is it doesn't matter what publisher you go to, if they don't make money off of the book they pay you to do, they hold that against you. Right. And so it's like, okay, why would I don't need to put all my energy into a book for you that isn't going to sell well, and then you're going to punish me for it because of whatever circumstances. So I'll just find an artist and put it out myself, and I'm having fun with that. I just put out a graphic novel earlier this year that I funded through Kickstarter called the Death of Bobby Hart, and I'm doing another Kickstarter project that'll probably be in March. I'm hoping to do 3 next year, and I have more fun doing that. I don't have to answer to anybody. Nobody yells at me. I sometimes have to yell at people, yell at artists, where the hell's the work, and they, oh, you want to get paid? You want to get paid? Finish the pages, then I'll pay you. But yeah, so that's it. But I'm going to pitch this Grinch thing to Marvel.
Oh yeah, do it. All right. Well, Mr. Walker, thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Please have a sweet Christmas.
I'm gonna have the sweetest Christmas. There's gonna be no fiddle faddle in my Christmas.
Oh, nice.
None of that.
That's a high bar.
All right, everyone. Thank you. The great David F. Walker. Go read his stuff.